Flocken é diretora europeia do Comitê Sindical Europeu de Educação e trabalha para a organização em Bruxelas desde 2009. O Comitê Sindical Europeu de Educação integra 127 sindicatos do setor da educação, representando 11 milhões de professores e outros trabalhadores de educação em todos os níveis de ensino, em 51 países da Europa. O CSEE é um parceiro social da educação a nível da União Europeia e uma Federação Europeia de Sindicatos no âmbito da Confederação Europeia de Sindicatos. O CSEE é ainda, não disse no início, a região europeia da Internacional da Educação. E lembro aqui que alguns dos que estão na sala terão visto recentemente a Susan em Portugal, no passado dia 11 de fevereiro, quando fizemos aquela manifestação dos 150.000 a descer à Avenida da Liberdade. A Susan veio a Portugal nesse dia para se dirigir aos manifestantes no Terreiro do Paço e transmitir a solidariedade e o apoio dos colegas europeus para a luta dos portugueses, uma intervenção que foi, de resto, muito apreciada. Susan, you have the floor, so you can comment, you can add what you want. Thank you very much.
To all of you, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation on this important day, a celebration of 40 years of activism and very strong activism. And indeed, I just want to express again a solidarity from ETUCE, all its member organizations, some of whom you have heard speaking here today, with you. With your cause and your continued fight. It is very important, and I can only say I was so impressed by your commitment, your stamina on that occasion this year of that demonstration with 100,000 teachers in the street. That was a really very big turnout, and it just shows how important it is to continue this fight and to make our voice heard together as teachers and teacher unions. So really congratulations to you for that. So Manuela has asked me to comment a little, so that's why I decided I'm staying here at this table, also in order to start our conversation really with you and open for questions from you, from the presentations. And reflecting on the presentations we heard today, you can see indeed that a lot of common issues. There are of course the differences and the different contexts in the different countries. Education is a national responsibility, and education has to be adapted to the national and regional context, but still regarding the teachers' issues and the union issues, there are similarities. And it is indeed one of the biggest issues, certainly, is the attractiveness of the teaching profession, is the conditions that we see in education. And it starts with pay, with being able to make a living out of your profession. It starts with the value that is given to the profession. So I'm very happy, for the title that you have chosen as well for this event, and of course also the demonstration to the respect of the teachers. And I just want to throw in another country's vision of education here, which we haven't heard, but also Manuela has asked me to present to you, which is Finland. You know that Finland for many years has been top on the PISA studies and results, but recently they haven't, so there are also issues. But still, in Finland, what has always struck me is the value that is given to the teaching profession. And I remember going to Finland for a case study, sitting in a taxi with 3 other colleagues going to school. And the taxi driver asking us, what are you doing here? I can hear you speaking different languages. What have you come here to do? And we told him, we've come to go to a school, visit a school, and to see, find out what you do here in Finland, in education, and why it is always top ranking. And he said, you know what? The teachers are the most important profession in our society. They are the foundation. And it struck me. Because this was not in a school context. This was not a politician looking for votes. This was an ordinary taxi driver. So imagine, that is the picture of teachers in Finland. And I think that is what we need to be striving for, to give that value to this important profession. Because indeed, teachers are crucial to our society, and they are crucial to the future of every country and of Europe. And we heard that also this morning in the presentation. So I think that is a very important aspect to share. Also in Finland, what they do is, in order to recruit teachers, and that there is an issue there now as well with the attractiveness, but still, it is only the highest qualifying finalists at university who can apply for the position of teacher. So you can see the value that is given to the profession. So, what, gathering and hearing from the contributions, indeed the issue is that we have a lot of pressure in our society on education. There are pressures indeed from the inflation, the energy prices, housing prices that are very high. We have the pressure, expectations from parents. We have the expectations in general from the labor market to education to prepare the students for life and prepare them at best for their specific area. And of course, we have the pressure in society. We heard about migration, diversity. This is happening in the schools, in the classroom. It's the teachers who are at the front line of all the changes that we see. And of course, we mustn't forget the big pressure that we also saw in the pandemic, which came very harshly at education, digitalization, which is there in our lives, it's there in our students' lives, and of course it has an impact on education, and we can't run away from it. We need to confront it, we need to embrace it in education. And very often we see that is just left to the teachers to do, but we need a system, we need support to teachers, and we need that value given also translating into the public investment in education. And I think that's something common that we heard today. When I mentioned, or we heard the workload mentioned as well, and indeed this is an issue across Europe that teachers are facing. It is because classes are growing. There are more expectations what should happen in education, and very clearly it has to do with bureaucracy, but also that there are topics that are pushed into education onto teachers that teachers are not responsible for and shouldn't be doing in their task of teaching. And still we see that is happening. So the workload is rising, but there is no compensation for the teachers in pay or in other benefits. And as I said, this is not only happening here in Portugal, but this is indeed something that we see across Europe. The other issue that we heard also is indeed the challenge of inclusion and diversity in the education system, and teachers need to be prepared. They need to be prepared and continuously trained in order to be able to address these challenges. Now, what we see across Europe is that it's not implemented in a general way, but it is often on the cost of the teachers. Training is offered outside working hours, and then in countries where it is offered during the working hours, we have the problem of teacher shortage. Because who takes care of the class when that teacher is on training? It's a very, very big issue. And indeed, about the precarity that also was mentioned here, short-term contracts, unfortunately, this is an issue that we see across Europe. And we see it in different sectors. So there are some sectors that are more prone to it, especially higher education is very prone to it. Their contracts are very much based on short-term projects. So our colleagues in higher education have to constantly apply for new projects, make sure there's a continued research. So it is a very, very big problem. But of course, precarity unfortunately also exists in other sectors, which has mainly also to do with the privatization push that we see in education. More companies coming in, and it was very interesting to hear when we heard from our Swedish colleague saying it's a push from the private really to the public education. And we were speaking earlier, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens now with this new government, because indeed, for the last couple of years from the Swedish minister, we've always been happy, to hear that they was telling other countries, don't go down the Swedish model, don't do that, go public. But now there's been a change of government, so we have to see what happens. But this is a very, very important message. And then what I would like to highlight is indeed the professional autonomy in education. Because one of the points when we talk about attractiveness of the teaching profession, the first point that comes to our minds is pay. And pay is no doubt very important. Not the most important part, but there are other factors. And one of them is indeed professional autonomy. Do I, as a teacher, have the autonomy to decide how I use, or which method I use in teaching? How I address the needs of my pupils? Or am I told or being controlled constantly how I'm doing? That has a very big impact. So if we have that autonomy, if we have that freedom to choose our methods, then the teacher is in charge and can adapt to the needs of the students. Because what we want is quality education. We don't want an assembly line, and an education can never be an assembly line where everybody comes out the same shape, same knowledge. That's not education. But many politicians think that education is just about that. And the trust in the teacher, I think, is really crucial. And building on trust is the social dialogue. So I think we've had examples here, except maybe for the UK example, but where we have heard about social dialogue working and functioning, where there is a possibility to come together to the table and discuss issues and to come to a meaningful outcome that is based on the needs on the ground and not just unilateral decisions. And that is based on building that trust between the social partners at national level. Now, at European level, I can tell you that that is not the general approach that we see. There are many governments who are taking unilateral decisions, or governments that say, yeah, we meet with you, but then there's no change. And we heard in the Netherlands, it's been for many years, you have to come back and fight persistence, but it is only with persistence that we can achieve. And I'm sure also we heard Mary speaking earlier. She was very clear. We are persistent, we will stand up, we will not go away, we are there. And that's what we unions do. We are there to say we stand and we will not move because we have a purpose and we stand for our purpose, we fight for our purpose. So in ETUCE, what we're doing across Europe now, we're launching a campaign to promote the attractiveness of the teaching profession, to empower the teaching profession, to raise the status of the teaching profession. And we want to address these issues. We want to promote social dialogue. and collegial leadership in education, making the teacher's voice heard in the schools, at regional level, at national level, at European level. We want to fight for fair pay, for inclusion, for the reduction of workload, for more continuous professional development, or continuous professional development starting at the beginning of the career throughout the whole career of teachers. And especially to make sure that nobody is left behind, because there are many, many challenges coming now into education. And we've seen in the pandemic, but we've seen also now with the many, many refugees also, we heard earlier from Ukraine, but also obviously from other countries coming to Europe, and they are in our classes, they need support. And so we want to raise awareness on this with this campaign. Because what is very clear is that no country can afford to lose its teachers and to lose out on its future. Because education is so central to our society. So what we want to do is to build that ownership, to ensure that the reforms meet the needs of teachers in the classrooms, and also that reforms, when they're implemented, are not implemented against teachers and not creating more burden, but that they are created together or for the support of the staff. Ensuring also the long-standing motivation, of course, of teachers, because what we heard is that many young teachers are leaving the profession very early, but also we face the issue that we have teachers not staying until the end of their career. They leave early. And there's some countries, like for example Germany, they have a very big issue with their teachership demography. And many old teachers, they will be retiring soon. And because the teaching is not attractive, there won't be teachers coming in, new teachers. So this gap is there. I mentioned the changes in society. So what I think is important, and also with this campaign, what we want to highlight is that teachers matter. We can make a difference in society, but also it's very clear that we can do that together. Together raise our voice across Europe on the issue of the attractiveness, to make the teaching profession attractive again. Then we can raise that voice amongst the politicians. We can make our voice heard at national level, but also at European level for the Council of Ministers, but also the institutions. So we will be launching our campaign on the 15th of May online from Brussels time 2 to 4. I think that's here 1 to 3. So you're warmly invited to join us for that event, to participate, to share good practices in this campaign. We share good practices from like we did here. So it's very useful to learn from each other. There's no need to set up new actions, but what you are doing already now, that is a huge contribution to the campaign. To raise the voice on the attractiveness of the teaching profession, to value this important profession. What we will be providing from ETUC is material that you can adapt to the use of your campaign here in Portugal or in other countries. And of course, one of the most important points that I wanted to highlight out, just again, as I was listening to all the speakers, everybody mentioned the importance of alliances, seeking alliances in society. Yes, as unions, we can do a lot, and we are big in numbers indeed, as teachers. There are many teachers, but we need the alliance in society with other stakeholders, other organizations, the parents, the school leaders. There are many organizations. And one example I want to give here, before I conclude, is Hungary. So in Hungary, they have an appalling situation. They don't have an education minister, to start with. education is regulated under the Minister for Resources. So it's completely under the finance aspect. So when we heard earlier colleagues here saying education is seen as a cost, I think it was you, Trudy, who said that. It's exactly the case that we see in an extreme form in Hungary. They have been fighting because they have a very big issue of demographic challenge. Many old teachers, they are really close to retirement, and even the government has tried to raise has raised the age of retirement. Teachers are leaving the profession because they are retiring and there are no teachers coming in because it's just not attractive. There's no salary that's attractive. The conditions are so restrictive that there are no young teachers. They have managed to get the whole society, it's unbelievable, but they've really got the whole society behind them. They've got the parents, they've got the pupils speaking out for them, and they've got the teachers and other organizations together with them on the streets demonstrating, and the pressure is really high on the government. It's so high that the Hungarian government came back to the unions and said, look, we can't do anything because we can't pay you because the EU is not supporting, is not paying us because, you know, there's a case going on against Hungary. They're not getting the EU funds because they're not in line with the democratic division of politics and government and justice. So there's really a high pressure on the government. There are no changes yet. They are in negotiations. But the pressure has to be maintained up, and it's really a huge difference in Hungary that they have got absolutely, really the whole society behind them. And when they go out on the streets, they have masses of people. It's really very, very big sign of support. So on this, I will finish to say, continue the work. Together we are strong and we can make a difference, and I believe in that together we can make that difference, and solidarity to all.
Agradeço a Susan Flocken.